5,300 years ago, a man died face down in an alpine glacier, and the ice was so patient that it kept him for us, skin, stomach, tools, and all. When we finally pulled him out, we called him Ötzi, and when we looked closely at his frozen skin, we found 61 tattoos. Not tribal patterns, not art, little groups of lines and crosses, and almost every single one of them sat directly over a joint that was quietly wearing out. His lower back, his knees, his ankles. He wasn't decorated. He was treated. Modern researchers looked at where those tattoos sit, and 9 of them line up almost exactly with points we'd now call acupuncture points, the same spot someone might needle today for chronic back pain, which means 5,000 years ago, somebody was already trying to switch pain off. So here's the question this whole video is really about. In a world with no pharmacy, no anesthetic, no aspirin, a world where a bad tooth or a cracked knee could follow you for the rest of your life, what did ancient humans actually do about pain? Because they felt it exactly like you do. The nervous system hasn't been upgraded. Their agony was your agony. They just had to answer it with a completely different toolkit. Let's start with the oldest tool of all.
Long before medicine came in a box, it came out of the ground, and the ancient world was, quietly, extraordinarily good at reading plants. Take the willow tree. Chew the bark, and it tastes bitter and awful, but inside it is a compound called salicin. Your body turns salicin into salicylic acid, and salicylic acid brings down pain, fever, and swelling. If that sounds familiar, it should. That is the direct ancestor of aspirin, the exact same idea, minus about 4,000 years of packaging. And people knew. Sumerian clay tablets, roughly 4,000 years old, already list willow for aches and fever. The Egyptians used it, the Greeks used it, Native American healers used it, all of them, independently, chewing their way to the same molecule.
Then there's the poppy. Somewhere in the Neolithic, humans figured out that the opium poppy did something no willow bark could. It didn't just take the edge off pain, it made you not care about it. We found poppy capsules stashed in a cave in Spain around 5500 BC, and poppy seeds tucked into farming villages across Europe long before anyone wrote a word about them. There's a lovely old story that the Sumerians called the poppy the joy plant. I'll be upfront, a lot of historians now think that translation is too neat to be true. But the archaeology on its own is enough. Humans found the strongest natural painkiller on the planet thousands of years before they could spell it. Nature's medicine cabinet was open the whole time. You just had to know which door led to relief and which one led to your funeral. Because that's the catch. Here's the part the romantic version leaves out. And it's worth saying plainly, rather than pretending the ancient world was one big herbal spa. The same plants that dulled pain could stop your heart. Henbane, mandrake, nightshade, all used to knock people out for surgery, all capable of killing the patient instead. There was no printed dose. There was a healer's memory, a rough handful, and hope. Get it right, and you slept through the worst hour of your life. Get it wrong, and you didn't wake up. So the earliest painkillers came with the earliest gamble in medicine. How much is enough, and how much is too much? And every ancient healer was running that experiment live on a person who was already suffering, which tells you how badly people wanted the pain gone. They were willing to risk the poison to escape it. Now hold that thought, that willingness to do something drastic, because it gets a lot more drastic. Imagine the pain in your head is so bad, so relentless, that this starts to sound reasonable. Someone takes a sharpened stone and slowly cuts a hole through your skull while you're awake. It's called trepanation, and it is not rare.
Depending on the region, somewhere between 5 and 10% of Neolithic skulls we dig up have a deliberate hole cut into them. Now, the part that genuinely stops you, you'd assume this was a death sentence. It wasn't. At some sites in France, 70 to 80% of Treppan skulls show clear signs of healing, the bone growing back, smooth at the edges, which only happens if the patient lived. In parts of ancient Peru, survival ran even higher. Sit with that for a second. We have found skulls belonging to people who were Treppan 2, even 3 separate times across their lives. They had it done, and they came back for more.
And here's the button on it. For comparison, cranial surgery during the American Civil War, with metal tools, with doctors, thousands of years later, killed roughly half the patients. Some Stone Age villages were beating that. So, the next time someone tells you the past was primitive, remember, your ancestors were surviving DIY brain surgery with a flint and doing it better than a 19th century field hospital.
But not all pain is a wound you can cut out. And this is where ancient medicine gets genuinely sophisticated in a way we're only now catching up to. They treated the mind as part of the cure. The chanting, the ritual, the healer's total confidence. We roll our eyes at that now and call it placebo, like it's a trick. But the placebo effect is real. Belief measurably changes how much pain you feel. An ancient healer who made you certain you would get better was, in a real biological sense, dosing you. And they paired it with things that plainly worked. Go back to Ötzi one more time. On his body, we didn't just find tattoos. We found birch polypore fungus, carefully carried, which fights the exact intestinal parasites we know were making him ill. And bog moss, which is mildly antiseptic, likely used to dress a wound on his hand. That is not a caveman flailing in the dark. That is a man carrying a considered little kit of remedies matched to specific problems 5,300 years ago. The plants for the pain, the moss for the wound, the tattoos for the ache that wouldn't leave, and a whole community's belief holding it all together. They were doing everything you'd recognize as care. They just had to invent every piece of it from nothing.
So, how did ancient humans deal with pain? The honest answer is relentlessly, cleverly, and far better than we give them credit for. With a forest full of chemistry, they decode it by trial and error. With a knife when the forest wasn't enough, and with belief when nothing else was left. Every one of those threads is still in your bathroom cabinet. Your aspirin is willow bark. Your strongest painkillers are the poppy. Your surgeon still opens the skull, just with better light and cleaner hands. Nothing about the fight against pain is new. You were just standing at the far end of a war your species has been fighting for at least 50,000 years, holding the weapons they spent all that time inventing. The body that hurt is the same. The person trying to make it stop is the same.
Ötzi carried his little kit up a mountain and never made it down. But somebody had cared enough to send him off with medicine in his pack. Because underneath the tattoos and the flint and the bitter willow bark, they were exactly us. Same animal, better lighting. Next time, we follow that instinct all the way to its edge, to what ancient humans did when the medicine didn't work and they had to bury someone they loved. That one's coming soon. Hit the like and subscribe button.